The FDA could give the green light today to the first COVID vaccine. Disney doubles down on streaming. You won't believe how many Star Wars series are in the works. And Love Hate 8 to end the week. Here's what you need to know. Good morning, this is Cheddar's Need2Know podcast for Friday, December 11th. I'm Jill Wagner with Carlo Versano. Hey, Carlo.
Happy Friday, Jill, and happy Hanukkah. I meant to wish you happy Hanukkah yesterday. I believe last night was the first night, right?
It was, yes. Thank you so much.
Did you guys do the candle lighting? Did Alex get any gifts?
We did. We did. You know, it's the first Hanukkah that Alex sort of has an idea of what's going on. So we lit the candles. We gave presents. It was fun. My parents,
Excellent.
because of COVID, it's just so sad. My parents dropped off a present outside for her because they want to give her a present every night. And, they came in masks. They left it at the door. And then we've had to FaceTime for her opening it. It's just, this is, I guess, Hanukkah 2020.
Next year we'll be back to normal. Yeah. By the way, before we get to the news, Taylor Swift just dropped a new. I know you're a big Swiftie. She just dropped a new album overnight last night. Big days.
Very exciting.
In the Jill household, yeah.
Yes, I was actually a little surprised when my Spotify list came out for the year of what I've been streaming. My most popular song, as we've discussed, is Jenny from the Block, but Taylor Swift was my number one streamed artist. So all you listeners, withhold judgment, please, including you, Carlo.
No judgment. I like Taylor Swift.
All right, let's get to the news. The FDA is poised to grant the first emergency approval of a coronavirus vaccine as soon as today, after an advisory panel signed off on the Pfizer-BioNTech shot. The independent committee voted 17-4 to approve the vaccine for people 16 and older. The FDA doesn't have to follow that advice, but it almost always does. If and when that emergency authorization comes, healthcare workers and nursing home residents in this country could start receiving the first doses within days.
Exciting times. This is we're here. But look, the supply chain and logistics industry, I know we've talked about this before, really about to face probably its biggest challenge since World War II. And we're going to see something like a really fascinating global relay race about to take place. So we've got airlines like United, Delta, American. They've all been working on plans to transport doses of these vaccines across the country on passenger jets, both in the cargo bays and in the seats on just empty planes. The FAA lifting restrictions on how much dry ice can be used on planes so that the cargo can be kept cold. Remember, dry ice a big part of the of getting this Pfizer vaccine out because it has to be shipped so cold. UPS and FedEx have been building these massive freezer farms at airfields across the country to take the handoff when the vaccines arrive on the tarmac. Walmart says they're prepping all of their in-store pharmacies at all 5,000 of their stores to be ready to deploy the shots whenever they arrive. CVS and Walgreens, both of those companies have contracts with the Defense Department under Operation Warp Speed to start administering shots to nursing home workers. So they're mobilizing their pharmacists and nurses to begin vaccinations really soon. So, the whole system is sort of coming together here. It's gonna be really interesting to see how this works.
The number of doses a state will get, by the way, based on their population. And then governors and state governments will specifically decide where they go within the state. We haven't been talking much, switching gears, about the ongoing efforts by some Republicans to fight the election in court, but it is continuing. The attorneys general in 4 battleground states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Wisconsin, are asking the Supreme Court to reject an unprecedented lawsuit brought by the Texas AG to overturn the election results in those states. That lawsuit's been endorsed by 17 Republican state attorneys general, along with 106 Republican members of Congress.
Yeah, so this lawsuit has virtually the Supreme Court's not going to hear this. I think it's almost certain, but this is the most coordinated attempt yet to overturn the will of the voters on behalf of President Trump. And just because it won't succeed, Jill, it doesn't mean that it's not news, and it doesn't mean that it isn't insane. This is insane. I'm sorry. This is insane. 40% of state attorneys general and more than 100 Republicans in Congress are are endorsing this. We're going on 40 days after an election that Joe Biden has won decisively. And again, there has been no evidence of widespread fraud. I'm sick of talking about this. I know you are. I know everybody is sick of hearing about it, but we cannot normalize this. This is just bananas that this is still going on like this. I don't know what else to say.
Right, and it's funny because I feel like we, in some ways, have been avoiding it in terms of because it's like, do you even report it? Because there's really no shot that
Yeah,
this is going to
exactly.
happen. So do you report it and validate it, or do you ignore it? But this is going on, and this is the president of the United States, and these are attorney generals or
Yeah,
attorneys general, as we say.
yeah. As we love to
Meanwhile,
copy.
President-elect, pardon.
No, I'm just saying that's one of the things you learn in when you take journalism classes. Like the first thing is like it's attorneys general, not attorney generals. I'll always remember
It's
that from my.
Yeah, it defies logic, actually. Okay, but President-elect Biden, his administration, he's going forward and picking his cabinet, etc. And it's going to have a lot of familiar faces. So Biden has chosen Dennis McDonough, who was President Obama's former chief of staff, to run the VA. Susan Rice, the national security advisor under Obama, is the pick to run point on domestic policy. Tom Vilsack, the Secretary of Agriculture for all 8 years of the Obama administration, has agreed to reprise that role in the Biden administration.
And not to mention John Kerry, of course, who's also the climate envoy, the pick for the light. Sorry, the light is just like messing up here. If you're watching this on YouTube, I don't know what's wrong, but I'm sorry. Anyway, yeah, John Kerry is the climate envoy. The Defense Department pick is, he's an old Obama guy. Vilsack is perhaps the most controversial pick yet, just because he's had a pretty controversial record on racial equity policies when he was running the Department of Agriculture under Obama. So I suppose the idea here on the Biden side is like we're in such dire shape on so many fronts that let's just get a lot of folks who know the ropes in Washington in the door on day one. Which I understand. That said, it would be nice to see some new talent in D.C., not just in the White House, but in Congress. You know.
I agree. And I mean, the progressives, I think, can't be too thrilled with a lot of these picks because it's
Oh
kind
yeah.
of just a who's who of who was in the Obama administration. But that is what Biden basically ran on, being this
Yeah,
moderate,
it's a
being
good
the
point.
safe choice. So he's really sticking with what he's been saying throughout, what he was saying throughout the whole campaign. I do want to talk a
And his
little bit.
cabinet, no, just very quickly, his cabinet is quite diverse. He did say he was going to have a very diverse administration, and his picks are I don't know if they're the most diverse picks yet, but they're quite diverse. So he's sticking to that at
I
least.
interviewed Jim Clyburn the other day on Cheddar. He is, of course, the congressman from South Carolina, credited with really turning
Yeah.
the primary around for Biden. He threw his support behind Biden early on, and South Carolina went for Biden when he was pretty much, we were thinking he was out and done because he didn't really win any of the first
Right.
primary. He didn't win the Iowa caucus. Needless to say, he told me that he thought he was happy with Biden's picks for his cabinet. He felt like they were diverse enough, and he was kind of thrilled with what was going on. He's in charge of the inauguration as well, which is going to be primarily virtual this year.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I was thinking about what their plans are. There's no way they're going to put a bunch of people on the mall in the middle of January during this, right?
No, he said they're going to be encouraging people to watch from home. He's like, we did it with the convention, it worked out, and they want to put safety first, even though you could imagine there's probably a lot of people who want to go and see Kamala Harris, especially such a
Yeah.
historic and groundbreaking pick for vice president. But
It's
needless
got
to
to be.
say,
It's
we're still
yeah,
going to be
you
in the middle of
can't.
a pandemic.
Yeah, it's got to be
Okay,
virtual.
I do want to talk a little bit, Carlo, about Wall Street. Shares of
Yeah.
Airbnb soared by 115% above their IPO price on the stock's first day of trading yesterday. The home rental company's phenomenal public offering, the biggest of the year, eclipsing that of DoorDash from just 2 days ago. Airbnb was privately valued at about $18 billion in the spring, as investors assumed it would be a big loser in the pandemic. But the opposite has happened, and the 12-year-old company now worth $100 billion, Carlo. It's incredible.
Truly incredible. And not to be a Debbie Downer here, but it's worth noting, Jill, at the same time, unemployment claims yesterday came out for the week prior, nearly 950,000 Americans filing for new unemployment benefits that week. Just a very bad sign that the broader, non-tech, non-IPO economy, the actual economy, is in just dire shape. Meanwhile, Congress has adjourned for the weekend. They are still deadlocked on a stimulus bill, no relief yet. I feel like Airbnb and DoorDash they should have made their stock tickers the letter K, because they are just emblematic, I think, of this K-shaped economy that we're in, right? If you're lucky enough to have been an early investor in Airbnb, life is good, man. You are sitting pretty. If you are unlucky enough to have made your career in an industry that is predicated on people being together and laughing and talking and hugging and eating, well, better luck next time. Good luck paying your rent this month, sucker. I don't mean to be so cynical here, and I don't want to take away from Airbnb's success, because it really is phenomenal and they deserve credit for what they've built. But you just can't help but be frustrated. The two Americas, right? I mean, maybe it's just me, but it's just something else.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the K-shaped recovery, I think, is pretty much what we're seeing. Unemployment claims accelerating. About half of Americans who've lost their jobs because of the pandemic, only about half have been rehired or are now with a job. So you're still talking millions of Americans, about 10 to 12 million, who lost their job at no fault of their own, right? Because
That's the
to your
important
point, if
part.
you
Yes.
that right, this is not something no one could have predicted this. In terms of what happened to the economy. And when you think about it, in February, if you had a job even at a Disney park, if you had a job on Broadway, if you had a job at a restaurant, why would you have ever thought that there was going to be a total shutdown and the park was going to close or Broadway was going to go dark for like the first time ever, or since 9/11? I mean, so basically you're dealing with all of these things that are just so out of people's control. And they're not reopening these businesses. So, you've got millions of people kind of left in limbo.
Yeah. And their elected officials are going to go to their ski houses, or wherever they're going to spend the holidays, because they don't care about them. I don't want to go off on a thing here.
I do want to talk about Airbnb, though, because what a turn of events for this company, which at the start of the pandemic was pretty much left for dead, right? The valuation, $18 billion. Brian Chesky, the CEO of Airbnb, said at one point in March, he looked at his computer and 80% of the bookings across Europe had been canceled.
Yeah.
Chesky getting a lot of credit for weathering the storm here. He told the Wall Street Journal he made about 10 years worth of decisions in 10 weeks, which I definitely believe. And one of those was the decision to lay off about 25% of his staff, which he took really hard. He's not a typical CEO. He actually, according to reports, was crying on calls
Yeah.
with staff.
Everything I've seen from him, he seems like a regular guy.
Right. So he made this decision to refocus on their core business, which was home rentals. Airbnb, as you know, had started to expand. They were booking experiences. They actually made a movie. Turns out, though, after a few weeks, things did start to bounce back, in part because the Airbnb model actually works in a pandemic. If people want to travel, and they could stay amongst their own family. Some background, he did start the company about 12 years ago when he and his roommate rented out air mattresses in their living room during a tech conference. So when you think about it right now, we say Airbnb, you can almost use it like a verb. But
Yeah.
this was a novel idea, right? This idea of renting a room in somebody else's house or renting somebody else's home. 5 years ago, if you think about if you were planning a vacation, you never would have thought to do that. You'd book a hotel.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you came to me with that pitch, I mean, again, what do I know? I'm not like a VC guy, but if you came to me with that pitch, I'd be like, who is going to do that? Who wants strangers living in their guest room? And why would you want to like sleep on somebody's bed or whatever? But hey, that's why I'm in this field and not that one.
Before we go on, I do want to tell you guys about another cool podcast from our friends over at Group 9 Media. Do you love movies and science? You ever watch a movie and think, did they get that right? Well, you can listen to Seeker's podcast, Bad Science. It's a show that pairs a scientist and a comedian, and they dive into a film and break down the scientifically inaccurate elements of popular movies and TV shows, from the paleontology in Jurassic Park to space physics in Star Wars to social science of gang culture in Mean Girls. There is no movie where we cannot find some bad science. So search for bad science anywhere you get your podcasts. And as a former teenage gal, I think Mean Girls was pretty right on, Carlo.
Oh, were you a mean girl? Have we ever discussed this?
I was not. No, I don't think I was, but I was. But I think that it's based definitely on a high
Oh,
school
for sure.
experience.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Even as a guy, that movie, you could tell, was just absolutely dead on in its depictions of high school culture.
Okay, back to some news. And speaking of Star Wars, Disney's not messing around. The company announced a slew of new projects in the pipeline, including 10 Star Wars shows and a new Star Wars film to be directed by Patty Jenkins. She's going to be the first woman to direct a movie in the Star Wars universe, by the way. Disney also working on 15 other movies, from a live-action Pinocchio starring Tom Hanks, and another Sister Act installment with Whoopi Goldberg. Did I love that movie when it first came out? Sister
That was a
Act.
good one. Yeah, Sister Act was good. Yeah, Disney's Pixar unit also producing a new Toy Story spinoff, Cars, and Up spinoffs. Those are going to premiere directly on Disney Plus, which is important. Disney Plus, by the way, approaching an astonishing 90 million subscribers. It's only been on the block for a year. That's the high end of what they thought they were going to get in 5 years. Just absolutely incredible. So you can see why they're going all in on streaming over there. The price for Disney Plus, by the way, will go up $1 to $8 a month in March. Look, as an old person and a fan of the original Star Wars, I think that this is kind of lame, just because you can't possibly make this much content and have it remain quality. Maybe if anybody can do it, I guess it's Disney, but I don't know. But I think if again, if you have kids, I'm sure you're like, hell yeah, man, right? I'm sure none of these projects can come out soon enough. But just to recap, 10 Marvel series, 10 Star Wars series, 15 Disney and Pixar series, 15 Disney and Pixar features, all coming in the next couple weeks off this incredible Disney assembly line.
So this news came out as part of their Disney Investor Day yesterday.
Yep.
So they also laid out their strategy for movies and films and stuff for the next year. And they said they're going to stay fluid, right? There's going to be some movies that they decide are going to go straight to streaming. Some of their films they're going to decide are going to be theatrical first. Some
Right.
are going to come out both. So, and look, I'm sure the theater owners and AMC are probably thinking, oh no. But I think a smart business move where Disney's saying we'll figure it out. We're gonna figure it out as we go, and
Yeah.
we're not giving you our entire plan at this date in 2020, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna promise to remain fluid. There is some talk, by the way, that Bob Iger could have a spot in the Biden administration.
I read
That's kind
that.
of one of
Yeah.
these things that's being rumored. Obviously, that was not announced yesterday, but just something to keep an eye on.
Bob Iger, by the way, America's most handsome former CEO. The guy is just a good-looking guy.
That's totally not what I thought you would be commenting on, Carlo, but I like that you keep me on my toes. Meanwhile, Time magazine has named President-elect Joe Biden and VP-elect Kamala Harris as its 2020 Persons of the Year. They edged out other finalists like Dr. Fauci and the frontline healthcare workers, the racial justice movement, and President Trump. The announcement was made by Bruce Springsteen in a primetime special on NBC.
Jill, in the end, we were both wrong. You had thought it was going to be Fauci and the healthcare workers, I believe. I thought it was going to be the Moderna scientists. Or the BioNTech scientists, rather. Biden was really the dark horse, I think, just like he sort of was in the Democratic primary. So it kind of makes sense. Also, I believe this is the first time a vice president has been picked for the Time Person of the Year. So congrats to them.
All right, let's do a little Love, Hate, 8. Carlo, kick it off.
All right. So one thing we love this week, Christmas tree smells. We got our Christmas tree last weekend. The house has just been smelling like a nice Christmas tree, and it's great. The real world is obviously the best, but the balsam fir candles, I have to say, are pretty good. I don't know if you're a candle person. We've gotten into candles a lot this year just because we've been home, and it's better than smelling like whatever else our apartment was going to smell like. I'm not a big fan of the sweet smelling candles, but the balsam fir candles that they sell at the grocery store are good. I enjoy. They have my full endorsement.
One thing that we hate, people who still 9 months into this pandemic cannot figure out how to wear a face mask. So if we could see your nostrils, it's not on properly.
It's amazing, isn't it? It really is. One thing though, this is I don't want to belabor this, but I always wonder what is the predicate or like what are you supposed to do when you're walking down the street and there's just like one other person on the street? Sometimes I'll take my mask off or I'll just put it on my chin like the chin diaper. Um, but then I'll like put it back up just as like a form of courtesy if someone's coming on the other side. Anyway, maybe that's just like a New York City problem. But finally, one thing that we ate, dinner off paper plates for the first time since college. I don't know about anyone else, but eating every meal at home we are running through our entire dish arsenal at this point every 48 hours. And it's just like, it's unbelievable. I thank God every day that we have a dishwasher. And I do want to take a moment to appreciate the folks out there who don't, because I really feel for you. We're talking about how it's nice to have a printer during a pandemic. It's really nice to have a dishwasher.
Yep, absolutely. And I maybe you are more mature than I am, Carlo. I occasionally have eaten off paper plates pre-pandemic too.
Really? Oh, really? Interesting. You learn
Yeah,
something new about you
I'm
every
not
day.
above it. All right, everyone. That's what you need to know for Friday, December 11th.
Have a great weekend, guys.